There are certain stories whispered in the dark corners of history, stories that textbooks never dare to print, stories that museums cannot display without rewriting entire chapters of human civilization. They are the tales of machines buried beneath the sands, of stones carved with impossible precision, of structures so advanced that modern engineers quietly admit they cannot be replicated today, even with our lasers, cranes, and supercomputers. And yet, these artifacts stand in plain sight, hiding in deserts, jungles, and beneath forgotten ruins, daring us to question everything we've been told about who we are and where we came from. Mainstream history insists on a tidy narrative. Humanity rose from simple hunter-gatherers, stumbled into farming, invented the wheel, and then slowly, painfully, crawled into the modern age of electricity, computers, and spaceflight. But what if this story is incomplete? What if our ancestors were not as primitive as we imagine, but custodians of knowledge and technology so advanced, so powerful, that it threatens the very foundations of our modern world? What if this knowledge was deliberately hidden, locked away, erased, or guarded by secretive elites who understood that true power lies not in weapons or armies, but in controlling the flow of information? Throughout history, we encounter tantalizing anomalies, impossible artifacts, enigmatic structures, and ancient texts that seem to describe technologies out of place and out of time. Scholars who dare to question the orthodox view are ridiculed, marginalized, or ignored. Yet, their findings refuse to disappear. Like sparks in the darkness, they illuminate a truth that refuses to stay buried. That our ancestors may have possessed forms of technology we can barely comprehend today. Consider this. The Great Pyramid of Giza, aligned with such staggering precision to true north that even our most advanced survey equipment struggles to match it. Or the enormous stone platform of Baalbek in Lebanon, where blocks weighing over 1,000 tons were moved and fitted with no mortar, resting with seamless perfection. Or the mysterious ruins of Puma Punku in Bolivia, where granite stones are cut with such surgical accuracy that even diamond-tipped drills would find the task daunting. How were these feats accomplished thousands of years ago, with supposedly nothing but copper chisels and ropes? The truth is, no one really knows. And yet, rather than admitting ignorance, the academic establishment doubles down, offering half-explanations that leave more questions than answers. Could it be that these mysteries point toward technologies long lost, or worse, deliberately erased from our history? Myths across cultures speak of a golden age, a time when gods walked among men, when humanity lived in harmony with forces of nature we no longer understand. In the Vedic texts of India, there are accounts of flying machines called vimanas, powered by unknown energy sources. In Greece, legends tell of Hephaestus, the god of fire and metalwork, forging automatons, mechanical beings capable of movement and thought. In Mesoamerica, stories speak of gods descending from the sky in fiery chariots, bringing with them gifts of knowledge. These are not the fantasies of primitive people. They are echoes of a forgotten world, one where technology and myth were indistinguishable. But why then is this not taught in schools? Why are museums silent? The answer may be uncomfortable, because to acknowledge these truths would undermine the very foundations of modern authority. If humanity once possessed limitless energy, methods to levitate stone, weapons capable of destroying entire cities, or machines that could heal the sick and extend life, what need would there be for governments, for corporations, for the fossil fuel empires that dominate our modern age? To reveal that knowledge is to risk shattering the fragile illusion of progress, exposing that we may not be at the pinnacle of human achievement, but rather survivors of a fall from greatness. This is why the ruins are treated as curiosities instead of textbooks. Why the carvings of ancient craft are labeled symbolic instead of technical. Why artifacts that don't fit the timeline are quietly stored away in basements, never to see the light of day. And why independent researchers who raise questions are dismissed as dreamers, or worse, conspiracy theorists. But as we peel back the layers of deception, we begin to see a pattern. Knowledge suppressed, libraries burned, scrolls hidden in caves, codices destroyed by conquest. Each time humanity comes close to rediscovering the truth, some force intervenes to silence it. The burning of the Library of Alexandria was not just the loss of books. It was the erasure of an entire heritage. The conquistadors who destroyed Mayan codices were not merely suppressing pagan rituals. They were wiping clean records of astronomical, mathematical, and possibly technological brilliance. Even in more recent history, inventors like Nikola Tesla discovered principles of free energy and wireless power, only for their research to vanish into government vaults, never to return. The ancients knew something we no longer know. Perhaps they tapped into the Earth's natural energies, harnessing vibration, resonance, and electromagnetic fields in ways modern science is only beginning to explore. Perhaps they understood the secrets of sound, light, and crystal technology. Perhaps they built machines not of metal and circuits, but of stone, energy, and consciousness itself. And here lies the most haunting question of all. If such knowledge existed, where is it now? Was it destroyed in the cataclysms that ended the Ice Age? Was it buried beneath rising seas, lost with civilizations like Atlantis or Lemuria? Or does it survive, kept in secret by bloodlines, mystery schools, or shadowy elites who understand that power must never be shared freely? Tonight, we begin a journey into the forbidden history of human civilization. We will explore the ruins, the texts, the myths, and the anomalies that point toward technologies both wondrous and terrifying. We will follow the trail of whispers that lead from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of South America, from the caves of India to the vaults of the Vatican. And as we trace this path, we will confront a possibility both exhilarating and unsettling, that the ancients were not merely our ancestors, but our forgotten teachers. They left behind clues, scattered across the earth like fragments of a shattered mirror. It is up to us to piece them together. And in doing so, we may uncover a truth the modern world is not ready to face. That the lost technology of the ancients may hold the key to our future, and that those who benefit from our ignorance will stop at nothing to keep it hidden. The ruins are speaking. The question is, are we ready to listen? If we listen closely to the ancient world, we hear not silence, but echoes, whispers from civilizations long vanished, voices carried on fragments of myth and memory. The strangest part of these echoes is how consistent they are, even across cultures separated by thousands of miles and oceans. From the deserts of Egypt to the mountains of Peru, from the temples of India to the islands of the Pacific, humanity tells the same story again and again. There was once a time when the gods walked the earth, when men lived in a golden age, when technology and knowledge far beyond our present understanding shaped the rhythm of daily life. Mainstream scholars assure us that these are nothing but myths, poetic metaphors, cultural fantasies, the imaginative dreams of primitive peoples. But ask yourself this: how could civilizations that never met, that had no ships or telegraphs to connect them, all describe eerily similar realities? Why do the myths of Atlantis mirror the legends of Lemuria, which in turn echo the stories of the Sumerians and the Egyptians? Why do the texts of India speak of sky ships and weapons of fire, while the stories of the Hopi elders recall flying shields and star beings descending to Earth? Let us start with one of the most enduring legends, Atlantis. The story comes down to us from Plato, who claimed it was not myth, but history, the record of a once great civilization that had mastered technologies unknown to his time. The Atlanteans were said to have crystal towers that drew power from the earth, aerial vehicles that moved without sails or oars, and weapons that harnessed the forces of nature itself. But their pride, Plato warned, brought their downfall, and their civilization was swallowed by the sea in a single night of catastrophe. Scholars scoff at the tale, but oceanographers quietly admit that beneath the world's waters lie unexplored regions larger than entire continents, any of which could hide remnants of forgotten cultures. In India, the Vedas describe a different yet familiar vision of this forgotten age. The texts speak of the manas, flying craft capable of interplanetary travel, powered by mysterious engines fueled with mercury or subtle forms of energy that modern science barely grasps. These weren't vague stories of gods on chariots. They contained technical details, instructions, and descriptions that sound more like an engineer's manual than religious poetry. Could it be that what we dismiss as allegory is actually the faint survival of knowledge from an earlier technological world? The Sumerians, one of the earliest known civilizations, tell of the Anunnaki, beings who descended from the heavens to grant humanity the gift of civilization, agriculture, mathematics, astronomy, and writing. These stories are often interpreted as myth, but they beg the question, why would a supposedly primitive people insist their knowledge was given, not invented? Why do their clay tablets contain precise astronomical knowledge, including details about planets invisible to the naked eye? Were the Sumerians merely exceptional observers of the stars, or were they remembering something passed down from teachers far older than we can imagine? Travel across the seas, and the Polynesian islanders tell of Lemuria, a lost land drowned beneath the Pacific, home to a people who possessed extraordinary wisdom and technology. The Easter Island statues, the Moai, face outward as if standing guard, silent witnesses to a catastrophe that erased their builders. Could they too be remnants of a forgotten epic? What we see is not isolated myths, but a pattern. Cultures divided by vast oceans, with no apparent contact, all preserve memories of lost lands, fallen empires, and technologies that rival or surpass our own. Skeptics will argue these are coincidences or archetypal dreams common to all humans. Yet, the details are too specific, too mechanical. Fire from the sky, ships that fly without sails, towers that capture energy, crystals that store knowledge. These are not metaphors for thunderstorms and imagination. They sound like descriptions of science. And then there is the matter of timing. Around the world, myths speak of great floods, of catastrophic events that ended these golden ages. The story of Noah in the Bible, the Sumerian flood in the Epic of Gilgamesh, the flood legends of the Hopi, the Norse, and the Maya, all tell of a deluge that wiped clean the slate of history. Modern geology confirms that around 12,000 years ago, the Earth suffered sudden and dramatic climate shifts at the end of the Ice Age, perhaps triggered by cometary impacts or solar outbursts. Could this be the historical kernel behind the flood myths, and the moment when advanced civilizations were swept away, leaving only scattered survivors and broken memories? If so, then what we call myth may be the oral history of survivors. The priesthoods, shamans, and storytellers may not have been spinning fantasies, but desperately encoding fragments of knowledge into myth, hoping that one day their descendants would decode the message. Myths, then, become more than stories. They are archives of a world we are no longer permitted to see. But why would this knowledge be hidden? Imagine the implications if humanity understood that we are not the first to harness flight, electricity, or weapons of mass destruction. Imagine if school children were taught that civilizations rose to astonishing heights tens of thousands of years ago, only to be erased by cataclysm and time. Such an admission would shatter our sense of progress and superiority. It would force us to admit that history is not a straight line of advancement, but a cycle of rise, fall, and forgetting. And those who currently control knowledge, governments, corporations, religious authorities, would lose their monopoly on truth. So instead, the echoes remain whispers. Atlantis is dismissed as a fable. The Vedas are called poetry. The Sumerian tablets are labeled mythology. And yet, when placed side by side, they tell a consistent story. Humanity once lived in the shadow of great knowledge, knowledge that slipped through our fingers like water, leaving only traces in legend. But those traces are enough to raise questions. Who built the impossible ruins? How did they master sciences we're only beginning to rediscover? And most of all, if they existed, where is their technology now? In the silence between the myths, one thing becomes clear. The ancients were not telling bedtime stories. They were trying to remember. And perhaps, in listening to their echoes, we can begin to awaken to the truth they left behind. Scattered across the earth are monuments so immense, so meticulously engineered, that they define not only the tools we are told ancient builders possessed, but even the capabilities of our modern machines. These are the stones that should not exist, megaliths carved and lifted with such precision that they remain a riddle taunting us from the depths of antiquity. They are silent, immovable witnesses to a story of technology lost, of knowledge erased. Let us begin in Lebanon at Baalbek. Rising from the ground in this ancient temple complex are some of the largest stone blocks ever cut by human hands. The trilithon, as it is known, consists of 3 stones, each weighing around 800 tons, resting perfectly upon one another. Nearby lies the stone of the pregnant woman, estimated at over 1,000 tons. To put this into perspective, modern cranes struggle to lift such weight, and even the largest machines used in heavy industry would balk at the task of moving such stones across uneven terrain, up inclines, and into precise alignment. Yet, here they stand, placed with a perfection so seamless that you could not slip a sheet of paper between them. The mainstream explanation? That ancient workers used ropes, wooden rollers, and manpower. But the question hangs in the air, can brute strength alone account for this? Or are we glimpsing the residue of a forgotten technology of movement, of levitation, of sound, or magnetism? Travel west to Egypt, and the mystery only deepens. The Great Pyramid of Giza is more than a tomb, more than a monument. Its construction involved over 2 million blocks of limestone and granite, some weighing as much as 80 tons, quarried and transported from miles away. And yet, they are fitted so precisely that even today, engineers marvel at the joints, some less than half a millimeter wide. To align such a massive structure with true north, with less than 3 minutes of error, is a feat that challenges modern surveying equipment. How did a society supposedly armed with copper chisels and sledges achieve such staggering precision? The orthodox answer is ingenuity. But ingenuity has limits. Copper chisels cannot cut granite with surgical precision. Logs and ropes cannot move 1,000-ton stones up inclines without breaking under the strain. What then did they use? Were they tapping into principles of resonance, using sound waves to soften stone or lift massive blocks? Were they harnessing forms of energy that allowed them to manipulate matter in ways our textbooks have long since forgotten? Then there is Puma Punku in Bolivia. At an altitude of over 12,000 feet, on the windswept plains of the Andes lie ruins that defy imagination. Here, massive andesite and diorite blocks, harder than steel, are cut into intricate shapes with perfectly drilled holes and angles so sharp they might have been machined in a modern factory. Some blocks interlock like jigsaw puzzles, suggesting they were prefabricated, cast, or cut with tools that left no room for error. Orthodox archaeologists claim these were made with stone hammers and copper chisels, but any stonemason will tell you, such precision is impossible with those tools. If these were truly the efforts of Bronze Age technology, then we must reconsider the very limits of what primitive humanity could achieve. Stonehenge in England poses similar questions. While the stones themselves are smaller than Baalbek's giants, the blue stones were transported over 150 miles from quarries in Wales. How? With sledges and rafts, we are told. Yet, the logistics of moving such immense stones over rivers and hills remain beyond comprehension, especially for a people supposedly without wheels or beasts of burden strong enough for the task. Why go to such lengths? Was Stonehenge not just a ceremonial site, but a machine, a device aligned with solstices and lunar cycles, a remnant of a forgotten science that combined astronomy, energy, and stone? In Japan, the underwater ruins of Yonaguni stir even more controversy. Submerged off the coast of Okinawa, these colossal stone terraces and steps resemble the remains of a sunken city. Mainstream voices dismiss them as natural formations, but divers who have swum among the blocks insist on the sharp angles, the carved staircases, the deliberate geometry. If Yonaguni is artificial, then it is at least 10,000 years old, far older than any known civilization. Which begs the question, who built it, and with what technology? From South America to Asia, from Europe to the Middle East, these sites form a constellation of impossibility. They mock our narrative of history, challenging the assumption that technological progress is linear, that what we have today is the pinnacle of human achievement. Instead, they hint that our ancestors may have known secrets of engineering, physics, and energy that allowed them to shape the Earth itself. Some researchers propose the use of lost machines, ancient cranes powered by water or gravity, or tools that harness the Earth's magnetic fields. Others point to the possibility of sound, that certain frequencies, when amplified, could reduce the weight of stone, allowing it to be lifted effortlessly. The Tibetans, after all, spoke of levitating stones with trumpets and chanting. The Egyptians, too, depicted priests using rods and sound instruments in construction. Could these legends preserve fragments of a real technology? Even more radical is the suggestion that some of these megaliths were not cut at all, but cast. Imagine a form of geopolymer technology, liquid stone poured into molds, hardened into blocks with interlocking shapes. Modern chemists experimenting with ancient techniques have suggested this is possible. If true, then the ancients were not quarrying mountains, but creating them, reshaping stone as if it were clay. And yet, the greatest mystery is not how, but why. Why move stones of 1,000 tons when smaller ones would suffice? Why cut granite with precision greater than that required? Why align monuments with the stars, with solstices, with magnetic north? Unless these were not merely monuments or tombs, but machines. Machines of energy, of resonance, of purpose lost to time. If these were machines, then the ruins we marvel at today are not simply broken temples, but the rusting skeletons of an ancient science. Science that drew upon forces of the earth and sky in ways that would appear magical to us. And if that is true, then what else lies buried beneath the soil, under the oceans, hidden in vaults where the public cannot see? These are the stones that should not exist, and yet they do. They force us to confront the uncomfortable truth. Either our ancestors were far more advanced than we allow, or we are missing a chapter of history so vast, so world-altering, that its revelation would shake the foundations of everything we think we know. The stones remain silent, but their silence speaks louder than words. They are a message carved in granite. You are not the first, and you will not be the last. Of all the mysteries of the ancient world, none loom larger than the pyramids. Their sheer size, their perfect alignment, their haunting majesty rising from the desert sands, they have fascinated explorers, scholars, and dreamers for centuries. Officially, we are told they were tombs built to house the remains of pharaohs. But this explanation collapses the moment we look closer. The pyramids are unlike any tombs ever built. No mummy has ever been found inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. No hieroglyphs decorate its walls. No inscriptions proclaim the glory of the king. Instead, what we find is something entirely different, an enigmatic structure designed with mathematical precision, embedded with astronomical alignments, and constructed on a scale that defies explanation. Could it be that the pyramids were not tombs at all, but something far more advanced, machines, power plants, or even gateways into forces we have only begun to rediscover? The Great Pyramid is perhaps the most studied, yet least understood, building in human history. Rising nearly 500 feet high, composed of some 3 million blocks of limestone and granite, its design encodes astonishing knowledge. The base is aligned almost perfectly to true north, deviating by a margin so small that even modern compasses struggle to detect it. The ratio of its height to its perimeter mirrors the mathematical constant pi. The internal shafts align with stars in Orion's belt and Sirius. Was this coincidence or a deliberate encoding of celestial knowledge? Inside, we find not chambers adorned with funerary art, but stark, resonant spaces. The so-called King's Chamber is built from massive granite blocks transported from Aswan, hundreds of miles away. Its ceiling consists of slabs weighing 70 tons each, stacked in layers above to relieve pressure, a feat of engineering that should not have been possible with primitive tools. And within that chamber sits a granite coffer, cut with such precision that it matches the acoustic resonance of the chamber itself. Some researchers suggest that the pyramid was designed not as a tomb, but as a resonant energy device, a machine that captured and amplified natural forces of the earth. This theory, once dismissed as fantasy, has gained traction as modern science explores the properties of piezoelectric materials. Quartz-bearing granite, when subjected to pressure or vibration, generates an electrical charge. The Great Pyramid contains precisely this kind of granite in its core. Could it be that the ancient builders knew how to harness this property? That the pyramid, sitting atop natural underground aquifers, used the flow of water to generate vibrations, which are then amplified by its internal structure. In other words, a giant power plant channeling Earth's own energy? Around the world, pyramids appear again and again, as if built according to a shared blueprint. In Mexico, the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan contains traces of mica, a mineral with insulating properties used in modern electronics. In China, hidden beneath layers of earth, lie enormous pyramids aligned with celestial patterns. In Bosnia, a controversial site shows pyramid-like hills radiating energy anomalies that defy natural explanation. Why did so many cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, converge on the same shape, the same design? Was it simply symbolic, a stairway to heaven? Was it practical, a design rooted in physics, geometry, and energy manipulation? Even the smaller pyramids hold secrets. The step pyramids of Mesoamerica are aligned with solstices and equinoxes, transforming sunlight into displays of shadow and light. Not religious accidents, but astronomical instruments. The Mayan pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza produces a serpent-shaped shadow on the equinox, while also creating an acoustic echo that mimics the sound of the sacred Quetzal bird. This suggests a profound understanding of acoustics, light, and geometry. These were not primitive structures, but sophisticated devices blending science, art, and spirituality. If the pyramids were machines, what was their purpose? Some propose they generated energy, not electricity as we know it, but a form of wireless power transmission. The Russian engineer Alexander Golod claimed his pyramid experiments increased crop yields, improved immune systems, and even created ozone layers above them. Other researchers believe the pyramids acted as healing chambers, amplifying certain frequencies that resonated with the human body. Still others propose they were communication devices, designed to connect with forces beyond our planet, perhaps even other dimensions. Mainstream Egyptologists bristle at these ideas, insisting that the pyramids were tombs and nothing more. But their explanations raise more questions than they answer. Why would tombs require such astronomical precision? Why embed advanced mathematical constants into their design? Why use granite with piezoelectric properties if the purpose was only burial? And why, after constructing such extraordinary monuments, would later pharaohs revert to far simpler tombs in the Valley of the Kings? Perhaps the truth is that the pyramids are survivors from an earlier age, remnants of a civilization with knowledge that was inherited but never fully understood by those who came after. The Egyptians may have claimed the pyramids, but they may not have built them, at least not alone. This echoes the possibility that the pyramids are far older than orthodox timelines suggest, dating back not to 4,500 years ago, but perhaps to a time before the Great Floods, before recorded history. Even today, the pyramids remain active in subtle ways. Electromagnetic anomalies have been recorded around them. Tourists report strange sensations inside the chambers, feelings of altered states or heightened awareness. Experiments with sound inside the king's chamber reveal amplification effects that defy simple acoustics. It is as though the pyramid still hums with a forgotten frequency, a machine that continues to function, even in partial silence. If the pyramids were indeed power plants, their existence changes everything. It means that humanity once harnessed clean, renewable energy from the earth itself. Energy that required no oil, no coal, no nuclear fuel. An energy that could have lit cities, powered machines, and sustained civilizations without pollution or scarcity. And if such knowledge existed, one can imagine why elites, both ancient and modern, will want to bury it. For control thrives on scarcity. To reveal limitless energy is to dismantle empires built on dependency. So the pyramids remain officially labeled as tombs, their true purpose denied, their secrets guarded. But when we look at them not as monuments, but as machines, a different picture emerges. One that suggests our ancestors were not primitive, but profoundly advanced. That they were engineers of energy, architects of resonance, and keepers of a science we are only beginning to glimpse. Perhaps the pyramids are not relics of death, but blueprints of life, reminders of what humanity once achieved and a challenge to what we might achieve again, if only we dared to listen to their silent hum. Legends across the world whisper of weapons so devastating, so incomprehensible, that they sound less like myth and more like descriptions of advanced technology. Stories of fire that rained from the heavens, of cities turned to ash in an instant, of gods wielding lightning that scorched the earth. Could these tales be exaggerations born from imagination? Or are they echoes of a forgotten age, a time when humanity possessed or was gifted weapons capable of mass destruction? One of the most compelling sources for these accounts lies in the ancient Sanskrit texts of India. The Mahabharata and the Ramayana are often read as epics of gods and heroes. But hidden within their verses are chilling passages that sound eerily modern. They describe weapons known as astra, divine, missiles granted by the gods, capable of destruction on a scale that mirrors our nuclear age. The Brahmastra, for example, is said to unleash a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe. When fired, it produced a fire brighter than 1,000 suns. The ground shook, winds howled, and people fell dead instantly. Rivers boiled, forests burned, and the survivors were afflicted with hair loss and sickness. To a modern ear, these words echo the aftermath of radiation exposure and nuclear detonation. How could writers thousands of years ago describe, in such detail, the effects of weapons we only rediscovered in the 20th century? The parallels are unsettling. Consider the ruins of Mohenjo-daro, one of the great cities of the Indus Valley civilization. Archaeologists discovered skeletons lying in the streets, seemingly frozen in a moment of terror. Some of these remains showed radiation levels far beyond normal. Buildings in parts of the city were melted into fused glass, as though exposed to temperatures so extreme they rival a nuclear blast. The official explanation remains elusive, but to those who read the ancient texts alongside these ruins, the conclusion is clear. The War of the Gods may not have been myth, but history. And it is not only India that speaks of such destruction. In the Bible, we hear of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, consumed by fire and brimstone raining from the sky. Witnesses describe Abraham looking upon the smoke rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. Archaeologists working near the Dead Sea have uncovered a site at Tal El Hammam that shows evidence of a sudden, catastrophic event. Walls melted, pottery turned to glass, soil fused into strange compounds only formed under extreme heat. Was this the divine punishment of Scripture, or another example of ancient weapons at work? Ancient Greece, too, preserved its own accounts. The god Zeus wielded thunderbolts, weapons hurled from Olympus that could obliterate armies. In Norse mythology, Thor carried Mjolnir, his hammer, which crackled with lightning and level mountains. To modern minds, these may sound like poetic metaphors for storms. But what if they were distorted memories of real weapons, advanced technology misremembered as divine power? After all, what would a primitive society call a bomb, a plasma cannon, or an energy weapon except the thunderbolt of the gods? Even in Mesoamerica, the Aztec and Maya recorded stories of gods who unleashed serpents of fire from the sky. The Popol Vuh, the sacred text of the Maya, describes fiery hailstones and floods of burning pitch falling upon rebellious cities. In the Andes, legends of Viracocha tell of giants destroyed by fire sent from the heavens. The imagery is hauntingly similar across continents, as though these cultures, separated by oceans, all bore witness to the same terrifying technology. Skeptics dismiss these stories as allegories, symbols of divine wrath or natural disasters. But then there are the physical traces, vast stretches of desert where the sand has been fused into glass. The Libyan desert, for instance, contains patches of pure silica glass scattered across hundreds of square miles. Modern scientists admit it could only have been created under conditions of immense heat, far hotter than natural wildfires. Some suggest a meteor impact, yet the glass is not confined to impact craters. Similar tracks of vitrified stone appear in ancient fortresses across Scotland, France, and Turkey, walls literally melted by some unknown force. Did our ancestors witness cosmic impacts, or were they victims of weapons capable of generating temperatures beyond anything natural? The uncomfortable possibility is that ancient civilizations were not merely farmers, builders, and astronomers. They may have been warriors armed with technologies we barely understand. And perhaps this is why so many of their legends speak of floods, fire, and catastrophe. If humanity once reached a pinnacle of knowledge, only to unleash weapons that destroyed themselves, then history may not be a slow climb of progress. It may be a cycle, one of rise, hubris, destruction, and forgetting. Consider Atlantis, the most famous lost civilization. According to Plato, Atlantis was a mighty empire that fell in a single day and night of catastrophe. Many dismiss this as myth, but what if Atlantis was real, and its downfall was not an accident of nature, but the result of a war fought with weapons like those described in the Vedas or the Bible? If so, the survivors may have scattered across the world, carrying fragments of knowledge. The blueprints for pyramids, the legends of gods, the warnings of fire from the sky. And yet, the deeper question remains, if these weapons existed, where did they come from? Were they human inventions, remnants of an advanced but forgotten age? Or were they gifts or curses from beings beyond Earth? Ancient astronaut theorists point to the eerie precision of these descriptions as evidence of extraterrestrial intervention. Others believe that humanity itself has risen and fallen many times, each cycle leaving behind only scattered ruins and myths. Either way, the evidence suggests something unsettling, that the ancients knew destruction on a scale we would not see again until Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The very same fire that fell from their skies has now returned in ours. And if history is truly cyclical, then the warnings of the ancients may not be tales of the past, but prophecies for our future. The question we must ask is chilling. Did the gods destroy mankind with fire, or did mankind destroy itself, and then blame it on the gods? If the ancients truly possessed weapons of unimaginable power, then they must also have held the keys to knowledge far beyond what mainstream history admits. Knowledge is more dangerous than any sword or spear. It can shape empires, build wonders, or tear civilizations apart. And time after time, the myths and records of our ancestors warn us. There was once a kind of wisdom granted to mankind by the gods. Wisdom so powerful it was locked away, suppressed, or destroyed to prevent it from ever falling into the wrong hands again. In nearly every ancient culture, there is a story of forbidden knowledge, and of those who dared to claim it. Take the biblical tale of the Watchers in the Book of Enoch, a text banned from the official canon, yet revered in secret traditions. According to this account, angels descended to earth and revealed secrets to humanity. They taught metallurgy, the crafting of weapons, the use of enchantments, the reading of the stars, and the art of cosmetics. In other words, they gave mankind the sciences of war, beauty, and magic. But this gift became a curse. Violence filled the earth, corruption spread, and the flood was unleashed to wipe the slate clean. The lesson was clear. Knowledge given too soon or used without wisdom, invites destruction. The echoes of this warning ripple across the world. In Greek mythology, the Titan Prometheus defied the gods by stealing fire from Olympus and giving it to humanity. Fire, in this sense, was more than flame. It symbolized technology, the spark of innovation. Yet for his crime, Prometheus was chained and punished, while mankind bore the consequences of this stolen gift. Once again, knowledge was seen as something both empowering and perilous. In Mesopotamian lore, the story of Enki, the god of wisdom, tells of forbidden instructions encoded in the sacred tablets of power said to contain the blueprint of civilization itself. Laws, sciences, music, architecture, and kingship. Whoever controlled the controlled the destiny of humanity. And just as with the Watchers, attempts to spread this knowledge were met with anger from higher powers. It seems the gods themselves wanted mankind to advance, but only so far and no further. The Egyptians, too, guarded their own secrets. Their gods were said to have bestowed sacred writings upon Thoth, the divine scribe, who in turn passed fragments of this wisdom to priests and initiates. Hidden chambers and libraries, such as the legendary Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx, were said to contain scrolls of unimaginable power, star maps, records of past cataclysms, and even instructions for harnessing the forces of the cosmos. Egyptologists scoff, yet the mystery lingers. Why do so many ancient structures align perfectly with stars and solstices? Why did priests insist that their knowledge was inherited from a time before the Great Flood? In Mesoamerica, the god Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, was remembered not as a conqueror, but as a bringer of knowledge. He taught agriculture, astronomy, medicine, and mathematics. Yet when his reign ended, many of his teachings were hidden, destroyed, or suppressed, as though humanity was not ready to fully wield what he had given them. The Mayan codices that survive today are but fragments, most of them burned by Spanish conquerors who feared what they contained. What was lost to the flames of conquest could have been evidence of advanced sciences that rival our own. And what are the legendary emerald tablets of Hermes Trismegistus? These mysterious writings, woven into the fabric of alchemy, claim to reveal the secrets of transmutation, the ability to transform matter, to bend the laws of reality itself. The phrase, as above, so below, comes from these texts, suggesting a mastery of both the heavens and the earth. For centuries, seekers of hidden wisdom risked their lives to gain fragments of hermetic knowledge, pursued by inquisitions and secret orders who feared the misuse of such power. Once again, knowledge was not destroyed, but hidden, reserved for a chosen few. Why this recurring theme? Why does every culture speak of wisdom granted and then taken away? Could it be that this knowledge was not merely symbolic, but real, a technology or science so advanced it threatened the fragile order of human society? If the ancients once possessed the ability to harness cosmic forces, to tap into energies we barely understand, then perhaps their myths are not parables but coded warnings. Modern researchers point to anomalies that hint at this. Ancient sites built with inexplicable precision, as though their architects knew secrets of mathematics and engineering that surpass what we teach in universities today. Star maps carved into stone that predate the invention of the telescope. Medical procedures, like trepanation, performed thousands of years ago with skill that rivals modern surgery. And time after time, we see the same pattern. The knowledge appears suddenly, flourishes for a short time, then vanishes, often after a catastrophic event. Who decides what knowledge survives and what is buried? History is written by the victors, and knowledge is curated by those in power. From the Library of Alexandria, the great treasury of human wisdom, reduced to ash, to the hidden Vatican archives that contain texts the world may never see, humanity has been cut off from vast portions of its own inheritance. Is this coincidence or design? Did the ruling elites of each age deliberately suppress what they considered too dangerous for the masses? Or were they simply following a pattern laid down in the distant past, a pact, perhaps, with forces beyond our understanding? There's a chilling possibility here. What if the so-called gods were not benevolent bringers of wisdom, but wardens, keeping humanity in check? What if their gifts of knowledge were rationed, carefully controlled, like giving matches to a child, only to be taken away once mankind grew too bold? It would explain why myths describe punishment whenever humans overreached: the flood, the Tower of Babel, the fall of Atlantis. Again and again, we are reminded that there is a boundary humanity is not meant to cross. And yet, the forbidden knowledge never fully disappears. It trickles down through secret societies, mystery schools, and hidden brotherhoods. Whispers of alchemy, sacred geometry, star lore, and theurgy. It becomes the lifeblood of occult traditions, preserved in shadows, waiting for the day humanity might be ready. But the question remains, who decides when we are ready? And why is so much of this knowledge still kept from us today? Perhaps the ancients were not simply recording their myths. Perhaps they were warning us that there is power hidden in the world, power that can uplift or annihilate, and that the true danger lies not in the knowledge itself, but in how we choose to wield it. If the ancients truly held forbidden knowledge, where did they wield it? The myths speak of great cities, centers of learning, power, and perhaps technology, now reduced to ruins or buried beneath the sands of time. To wander through these sites today is to step into a puzzle, one that refuses to conform to the neat explanations of mainstream archaeology. Their scale is too grand, their alignments too precise, their methods of construction too mysterious. It is as if we are looking at the skeletons of a forgotten age, where cities once thrummed with forces we can scarcely imagine. Take Baalbek in Lebanon. At its heart lies the temple of Jupiter, but beneath it rests something far older, the megalithic foundation stones known as the trilithon. Each block weighs up to 1,200 tons, cut and set with precision so fine that not even a blade of grass can fit between them. Modern cranes cannot lift such stones with ease, yet the ancients not only moved them, but stacked them. What kind of society could command such feats? The Romans later built their temple atop this platform, but even they admitted it was already ancient in their time. Who, then, built Baalbek's colossal foundation? And for what purpose? Across the ocean, in the high Andes of Peru, lies Sacsayhuaman, an enormous fortress or ceremonial center, constructed with interlocking stone walls that defy explanation. Each stone, some weighing more than 100 tons, is cut into irregular shapes, fitting together like a jigsaw puzzle. No mortar holds them in place, yet they have withstood earthquakes for centuries. The stones are polished, their edges carved so tightly that one cannot slide a sheet of paper between them. Archaeologists insist the Inca built this site, but the Inca themselves said otherwise. They claimed the walls were built by the gods, long before their ancestors arrived. Could these stones be remnants of a lost civilization whose techniques we no longer understand? Then there is Tiwanaku and its mysterious gateway at Puma Punku, also in Bolivia. Here, vast stone blocks are cut with machine-like precision, forming perfect right angles, drill holes, and complex interlocking shapes. The granite and diorite used are among the hardest stones on Earth, yet they were carved with accuracy that rivals modern machining. To cut diorite today requires diamond-tipped tools. How, then, did the builders of Puma Punku achieve such perfection without iron, steel, or advanced tools? Mainstream archaeology shrugs, suggesting crude methods and vast manpower. But many who visit the site feel a different truth, that this was not the work of primitive hands, but of a civilization with knowledge of lost technologies, perhaps even the ability to manipulate stone at the molecular level. Far to the east, the Great Pyramids of Giza continue to baffle the world. Officially, they were built as tombs for pharaohs. Yet no mummies have ever been found inside the Great Pyramids, and their internal chambers defy simple funerary purpose. Their alignment is so precise that they mirror the belt of Orion. Their sides align almost perfectly with the cardinal directions, and their measurements encode advanced mathematical constants, including pi and the golden ratio. More astonishing still, the Great Pyramid's base is level to within fractions of an inch, a feat that rivals modern laser technology. Was this simply the result of remarkable human ingenuity, or was it the application of knowledge now lost to time? Some researchers argue that the pyramids were not tombs at all, but energy machines designed to harness Earth's natural forces, perhaps even to generate power. The same questions arise at Angkor Wat in Cambodia. From above, its vast temple complex reveals a hidden code. It is a precise map of the constellation Draco as it appeared in 10,500 BCE, thousands of years before the temple was supposedly built. Why encode such ancient star maps unless the builders were preserving knowledge from a much older source? Legends tell of gods and celestial beings guiding its creation. And when you stand among its towers and galleries, you cannot help but feel it was designed as more than a temple, perhaps as a cosmic gateway, a bridge between Earth and the stars. Even in the heart of the ocean, we find ruins that hint at forgotten worlds. Off the coast of Japan lies Yonaguni, an underwater structure with steps, terraces, and geometric angles carved into stone. Some call it a natural formation. Others see it as a sunken city, a lost remnant of an advanced culture drowned by rising seas at the end of the last ice age. If true, it would push back the timeline of civilization by thousands of years, rewriting everything we think we know about human history. What unites all these sites is not merely their scale or mystery, but their purpose. They are not random constructions. They align with stars, solstices, and equinoxes. They seem designed to resonate with cosmic patterns, as if the builders understood a hidden connection between heaven and earth. Could these cities of power have functioned as more than places of worship? Were they centers of energy, harnessing forces we have yet to rediscover? Mainstream history insists these sites were built with primitive tools and brute force. Yet when we place them side by side, Baalbek, Sacsayhuaman, Giza, Puma Punku, Angkor, Yonaguni, a different picture emerges. It is the picture of a global pattern, a network of sacred sites, perhaps even the remains of a world-spanning civilization lost to time. A civilization that understood geometry, astronomy, and engineering at a level that still humbles us. And perhaps this is why their knowledge was forbidden. Because to understand how these cities were built would be to unlock the same powers their builders once wielded, powers that may have led to their destruction. As we walk among the ruins today, we are not merely tourists gazing at stones. We are witnesses to a buried chapter of human history, one that challenges everything we've been taught. If these lost cities were centers of power, then the next question is inevitable. What kind of energy did they harness? Were the ancients tapping into forces we dismiss as myth, ley lines, telluric currents, even resonance with the stars themselves? And if so, why has this knowledge been erased? The deeper one looks into the ruins of the ancients, the more one realizes they are not random piles of stone, nor merely the relics of forgotten kings. They are coded messages, encrypted in geometry, mathematics, and astronomy. These messages speak to a truth the modern world is only beginning to rediscover, that the ancients saw the universe itself as a living pattern, a harmony of numbers, shapes, and stars. And they built their cities to resonate with this cosmic order. The most obvious example lies in the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its base is aligned almost perfectly to true north, within a fraction of a degree, a feat so precise that even modern surveyors are astonished. But the pyramid is more than an alignment. Its proportions encode mathematical constants that define the very structure of the cosmos. The ratio of its height to its base is equal to half of pi. The slope angle approximates the golden ratio, that mysterious number found in seashells, galaxies, and human DNA. Its perimeter mirrors the circumference of the Earth, while its height mirrors the distance to the Sun. Could this be coincidence? Or did the builders possess knowledge of planetary dimensions thousands of years before modern science rediscovered them? This same cosmic coding appears in other sites. At Stonehenge, the Great Circle of Stones functions as an astronomical observatory, tracking solstices, equinoxes, and eclipses with startling accuracy. The ancients knew the heavens were not random. They were a clock, a calendar, and perhaps even a code of destiny. The stones themselves are positioned according to sacred geometrical principles, forming a temple that unites earth and sky. Far to the east, Angkor Wat in Cambodia reflects the constellation Draco as it appeared over 12,000 years ago. Its towers are laid out in ratios tied to Hindu cosmology, encoding cycles of time spanning thousands upon thousands of years. It is as if the builders wanted to remind us that history is not linear, but cyclical, that civilizations rise and fall according to cosmic rhythms. Even the enigmatic site of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, dated to over 11,000 years ago, is covered in symbols, carvings, and pillar arrangements that appear to mark constellations. Some researchers believe it encodes the date of a cataclysm, a comet impact that ended the Ice Age. Why would hunter-gatherers, supposedly primitive, construct a vast megalithic temple aligned to the stars? Unless, of course, they were the inheritors of knowledge from a world that came before, carrying the codes of a lost civilization into a new age. But why sacred geometry? Why star maps? For the ancients, geometry was not simply mathematics. It was a sacred language, the very blueprint of creation. Circles, triangles, and spirals were not abstractions, but reflections of divine order. The golden ratio was seen as proof that the cosmos itself was alive, imbued with intelligence. To build in harmony with these proportions was to align a temple, a city, even a civilization with the heartbeat of the universe. This idea is echoed in traditions across the world. In India, the science of Vastashastra taught that buildings must be constructed in alignment with cosmic energy grids. In China, Feng Shui mapped the flow of qi through landscapes and cities, aligning human settlements with heavenly patterns. In Mesoamerica, pyramids like those at Teotihuacan were built to mirror constellations, their very layout encoding celestial cycles. Across cultures, the same truth emerges. To build in stone was to inscribe a connection between earth and heaven. Yet these codes are not only symbolic. Many believe they served a functional purpose. Temples, pyramids, and megaliths may have acted as energy resonators, harnessing telluric currents, the natural electromagnetic flows of the earth. By aligning with sacred geometry and celestial cycles, these structures could have amplified or directed energy in ways we no longer understand. Could it be that the pyramids, Stonehenge, and other sites were not merely ceremonial, but technological? Machines of stone, operating on principles of resonance and vibration? Consider how many of these sites are built upon ley lines, invisible alignments that connect ancient monuments across continents. Skeptics dismiss ley lines as coincidence, yet the sheer number of sacred sites that fall upon them is staggering. From Avebury to the Great Pyramid, from Machu Picchu to Easter Island, the lines connect across oceans. Were the ancients mapping Earth's energy grid, creating a network of power stations in harmony with the cosmos? If so, then sacred geometry was not just philosophy. It was engineering, and its cosmic codes may still be pulsing beneath our feet, waiting to be understood again. But here lies the controversy. Why is this knowledge absent from our textbooks? Why do archaeologists dismiss alignments, ratios, and star maps as coincidences? Perhaps because acknowledging them would unravel the story we've been told about human history. It would mean admitting that ancient people were not primitives stumbling in the dark, but sophisticated scientists, architects, and astronomers working with a worldview far more advanced, and perhaps more spiritual than our own. And perhaps this is exactly why these codes were hidden. For if humanity once understood the geometry of creation itself, then we held the keys to unlocking powers that modern science is only beginning to glimpse: free energy, resonance healing, even interdimensional communication. Such knowledge would overturn the hierarchies of power today. Energy would no longer be controlled by elites. Healing would not depend on industries. Human beings would live once more in resonance with the cosmos, free from the illusions of separation. That possibility, that terrifying freedom, may explain why the ancient cosmic codes were buried beneath layers of myth, misinterpretation, and academic denial. The stones, however, remain. They cannot lie. And when we stand before them, at Giza, at Stonehenge, at Göbekli Tepe, we feel something stir in us. A recognition, a whisper, as though some part of us remembers these codes, this language of harmony, buried deep in our DNA. Perhaps the ancients did not build for themselves alone. Perhaps they built for us, for a future generation that would one day awaken and remember. Throughout human history, knowledge has never been evenly distributed. Power has always flowed to those who possessed the mysteries of the heavens, the cycles of time, and the laws of the earth. From the earliest civilizations, there were those who claimed to hold the keys to this wisdom: priesthoods, secret brotherhoods, and guardians of sacred temples. These groups presented themselves as the intermediaries between man and the divine, yet their true role may have been something far more profound: the preservation, control, and, at times, suppression of ancient technological knowledge. In ancient Egypt, this role was embodied by the priesthood of Heliopolis and the custodians of the great temples along the Nile. To the common people, the priests performed rituals and interpreted omens. But behind closed doors, within the sacred chambers of Karnak, Luxor, and Giza, they preserved the star knowledge, the sacred geometries, and perhaps even the operational secrets of the pyramids themselves. Only initiates, after years of discipline, were admitted into the deeper mysteries. Some scholars argue that this priestly elite functioned almost like scientists, astronomers, mathematicians, and healers wrapped in religious garb, safeguarding techniques that bordered on magical technology. The pattern repeats elsewhere. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians credited their wisdom to the Anunnaki, sky beings who bestowed knowledge of agriculture, metallurgy, and astronomy. The priest-kings of Sumer and later Babylon acted as mediators of this knowledge, using it to control their people and solidify their power. The library of Ashurbanipal, one of the first great repositories of human knowledge, contained texts on mathematics, medicine, astronomy, and more. But most of it was restricted to the ruling and priestly classes, never shared with the masses. Even in the ancient Americas, the role of the knowledge keeper was central. The Maya priesthood maintained detailed calendars stretching thousands of years, predicting eclipses and cosmic cycles with astonishing accuracy. Their codices, however, were destroyed by invading powers, suggesting that what they knew may have contradicted the narrative the conquerors wished to impose. Imagine what was lost: entire sciences, perhaps even records of a much older world, turned to ash in colonial bonfires. But the story of hidden knowledge is not only ancient. It has woven itself through history, moving like a shadow beneath the surface of empires. During the medieval and Renaissance eras, the keepers of esoteric wisdom often operated in secrecy. The Knights Templar, originally warrior monks, became entangled in whispers of forbidden lore. Some say they discovered relics beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, scrolls, artifacts, even devices linked to the ancient world. Whatever they found, it elevated them from poor monks to one of the most powerful organizations in Europe. Their eventual persecution and suppression hint at how dangerous hidden knowledge can be to established powers. Centuries later, groups like the Rosicrucians and the Freemasons would emerge, cloaking themselves in symbolism that drew upon the geometry of the ancients. They claimed to guard the light of wisdom, initiatory secrets passed down through hidden lineages. Their rituals, from the compass and square to the all-seeing eye, echo the same sacred geometry and cosmic codes we see carved into ancient temples. Were they true inheritors of a primordial science, or simply imitators? The answer remains contested, but the persistence of these symbols through history suggests a continuity of knowledge, carefully transmitted, but never fully revealed. And then there are the darker whispers, that secret societies did not merely preserve knowledge, but hoarded it, using it as a weapon of control. In every age, rulers have feared what might happen if ordinary people gained access to the true powers of the cosmos. If the pyramids were energy devices, if sacred sites tapped into Earth's natural forces, what would become of kings and priests if farmers and artisans could wield such power freely? Knowledge, after all, is liberation, and liberation is the enemy of hierarchy. This theme of hidden knowledge has been woven into mythology. In the biblical story of Eden, humanity is denied the tree of knowledge. In Greek myth, Prometheus is punished for giving fire, the symbol of technology, to mankind. Over and over, we see the same message. Knowledge is for the gods or for their chosen intermediaries, not for the masses. When it leaks into human hands, it threatens the order of the world. Could this be why so much of the ancient world remains shrouded in mystery? Why texts vanish, artifacts disappear, and entire libraries are burned? The destruction of the Library of Alexandria, the suppression of Gnostic scriptures, the secret archives of the Vatican, all of these events suggest that the battle over knowledge has never truly ended. Today, we like to believe we live in an age of information. Yet the pattern continues. Scientific breakthroughs are often classified, technologies patented and locked away, discoveries hidden under the banner of national security. Modern elites guard knowledge just as jealously as the high priests of Egypt. One must wonder, are they still drawing from the same ancient source, fragments of a primordial science kept alive in secret orders, government vaults, or private archives? The very idea that knowledge has always been filtered, controlled, and suppressed adds a chilling weight to our exploration. It implies that humanity has not merely forgotten its lost technologies, but has been deliberately kept from them. That what we call progress may in fact be a carefully managed drip feed of rediscovery, doled out only when it suits those who hold the keys. And so the question becomes, who are the true keepers today? Do they sit in the gilded halls of global institutions, cloaked in a language of science and policy? Do they still wear the ancient robes of mystery schools, hiding in plain sight within fraternal orders and secret lodges? Or have they passed into a new era entirely, hidden in the shadows of corporations and intelligence networks, guarding patents and technologies that could rewrite civilization itself? If the ancients encoded their wisdom into stone, then perhaps the modern keepers have encoded it into systems of control, financial, political, digital. The medium has changed, but the game remains the same. And we, the ordinary seekers, are left staring at ruins, wondering what truths lie just beyond our reach, locked away by those who still play the role of gatekeepers in an unbroken chain stretching back to the dawn of civilization. The ancients built the monuments. The priesthoods preserved the knowledge, and the elites of every age decided who was worthy to receive it. The question now is simple. Will our age finally break the chain, or will we, too, be denied the light? If knowledge is power, then erasing knowledge is the ultimate weapon. Throughout history, the most dangerous ideas were not always the ones shouted from rooftops, but the ones quietly silenced, burned, or buried. To understand why we know so little about the lost technologies of the ancients, we must look not only at what was preserved, but at what was destroyed. And the trail of suppression is as vast as it is chilling. Perhaps the most famous example is the Library of Alexandria, that legendary repository of the ancient world's wisdom. Said to contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls, its shelves were rumored to hold everything from maps of unknown lands to astronomical treatises, advanced medical texts, and records of lost civilizations. Some ancient sources suggest it preserved knowledge from Egypt, Mesopotamia, India, and beyond, a convergence of the world's wisdom in one place. But fire, war, and neglect eventually erased it from existence. Official history blames accidents and invasions, but one can't help but wonder, was it truly destroyed by chance? Or was the burning of Alexandria a deliberate act to ensure humanity would never reclaim the knowledge of the ancients? Alexandria was not the only loss. In China, Emperor Qin Shi Huang ordered the burning of books in 213 BCE, erasing vast libraries of ancient philosophy, medicine, and astronomy. The reason given? To unify thought and suppress dissent. But many suspect that the true purpose was to centralize control of knowledge, ensuring that only the emperor and his court retained access to the deeper sciences. Once again, the masses were denied the keys to their own heritage. The pattern repeats in the Americas. When the Spanish conquistadors encountered the Maya and Aztec civilizations, they were shocked by the sophistication of their calendars and astronomical systems. Yet rather than preserve them, missionaries burned countless Maya codices, declaring them heretical. Only 4 have survived to the modern day. Imagine what secrets might have been contained in the hundreds, perhaps thousands, that were lost. Knowledge of ancient cycles, cosmic events, even technologies that we can only guess at, gone forever in the flames of conquest. And still, the suppression did not end. During the Middle Ages, alternative texts that challenged official doctrine were systematically destroyed. The Gnostic Gospels, which presented radically different views of human origins and divine power, were buried in the sands of Nag Hammadi, only to be rediscovered in the 20th century. How many other texts lie hidden, waiting to be uncovered? And how many were destroyed, erased from memory to maintain control of the narrative? Even when knowledge is not burned, it can be buried, sometimes literally. Archaeological discoveries that do not fit the mainstream timeline are often dismissed as anomalies, locked away in museum basements, or quietly forgotten. Reports of out-of-place artifacts, objects like precision machine metal, spheres found in ancient rock layers, or carvings that depict advanced technologies, rarely make it into official textbooks. Instead, they're labeled hoaxes or ignored entirely. Yet the question lingers. Are these truly false, or are they dangerous evidence that could rewrite the story of human history? Modern institutions, too, play their part. The Vatican's secret archives, rumored to stretch for miles beneath the Holy See, are said to contain texts and artifacts that could transform our understanding of the past. Only a handful of scholars are permitted limited access, and the vast majority remain sealed away. What lies within? Documents from the Library of Alexandria? Forbidden Gospels? Ancient technologies described in lost languages? The secrecy itself raises suspicion, feeding the idea that certain truths are deliberately hidden from the world. Even in the age of science, suppression continues under a different guise. Discoveries that threaten powerful interests often vanish into the shadows. Whistleblowers have long claimed that patents for free energy devices, advanced propulsion, or resonance-based healing technologies are quietly bought up or classified under national security. The justification is always safety or stability, but the result is the same. The masses remain dependent on controlled systems of energy, medicine, and knowledge, while the possibility of liberation through ancient principles of resonance and geometry remains out of reach. And then there are the archaeologists and academics themselves. While many work earnestly, the structures of academia often punish those who question orthodox timelines or suggest that ancient civilizations possessed advanced knowledge. Careers are destroyed, funding withdrawn, reputations ruined. The message is clear. Step outside the accepted narrative, and you'll be silenced. In such an environment, is it any wonder that so few dare to challenge the official version of history? Some might argue that this suppression is not malicious but protective, that the ancients may have wielded technologies so powerful they could be catastrophic in the wrong hands. Legends warn of civilizations destroyed by their own hubris, of weapons of the gods that leveled cities and scorched skies. Perhaps the burning of books and burying of artifacts was meant to prevent humanity from repeating these mistakes. But if so, who decides when humanity is ready? And can we truly trust the same elites who profit from keeping us dependent to be the guardians of such wisdom? The tragedy of suppression is that it creates a world of half-truths and whispers. We glimpse fragments, a pyramid aligned to the stars, a codex describing cycles of time, a symbol hidden in a secret society's ritual, but the full picture remains obscured. Like a jigsaw puzzle with most of its pieces burned, we are left with tantalizing hints of a story we cannot quite assemble. And perhaps this is the greatest loss of all. For suppression does not only erase knowledge, it erases memory. It leaves us disconnected from our own origins, adrift in a story written by others. If the ancients truly held the keys to free energy, cosmic resonance, or a higher spiritual science, then to deny us that knowledge is to deny us our birthright. The fires of Alexandria, the ashes of Maya codices, the sealed vaults beneath the Vatican, the classified patents locked away by corporations and governments. All are chapters in the same long war, a war not fought with swords or guns, but with silence. A war against memory itself. And the victors of that war are always the same, those who already hold power. By erasing the past, they ensure control of the present and shape the future to their will. But the stones still whisper, the fragments still surface, and seekers still ask the forbidden questions. Suppression may erase, but cannot destroy the truth forever. And perhaps that is when we peel back the layers of ancient mythology, we begin to see something strange. Myths that sound less like fairy tales, and more like garbled eyewitness accounts of technology. Could it be that what we call mythology is in fact the cultural memory of a world that once possessed extraordinary knowledge? Knowledge later cloaked in story and symbolism as the details faded? Take the Hindu Vedas, some of the oldest religious texts in existence. They speak of flying machines called vimanas, aerial chariots capable of traversing the skies and even outer space. These vimanas were not described in vague terms, but with startling specificity. The texts speak of their propulsion systems, of metals required to construct them, even of battles fought in the heavens with weapons that resembled descriptions of lasers or nuclear blasts. Were these simply metaphors or distorted memories of an advanced technology, remembered through poetic verse when the machines themselves were lost? The Greeks, too, preserve whispers of impossible devices. The tale of Hephaestus, the divine smith, includes descriptions of mechanical servants, what we might call robots. Ancient myths also tell of the fire of the gods, gifted to humanity by Prometheus, a symbol so powerful it provoked divine punishment. Was fire merely flame, or could it represent a deeper technology, electricity, energy, or knowledge itself? Again, the pattern emerges. Humanity receiving technology too powerful for ordinary mortals, only to be punished or denied access. Across the Mediterranean, the Hebrews spoke of the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred chest said to house divine power. But descriptions of the Ark go beyond spiritual reverence. Some accounts speak of it as a weapon, capable of leveling walls, emitting blinding light, or even killing those who approached it unprepared. To modern eyes, it sounds like a dangerous energy device, a relic of lost science mistaken for a tool of the gods. Then there are the Sumerians who credited their knowledge to the Anunnaki, beings who descended from the heavens bringing advanced skills, agriculture, astronomy, metallurgy. Their myths describe tablets of destinies, objects of immense power and control. Were these symbolic, or could they represent advanced devices, information storage systems, or technologies passed down to an elite priesthood? Even in the Norse sagas, echoes of lost technology can be found. The god Thor wields Mjolnir, a hammer that channels thunder and lightning. To the Norse, it was a weapon of the gods, magical and mighty. To us, it sounds eerily like a tool capable of harnessing electrical energy, a technology mistaken for divine might. The Maya and Aztec civilizations told of gods descending on fiery serpents from the sky. In Polynesian tradition, Maui is said to have slowed the sun with a magical hook. The Dogon people of Mali preserve knowledge of the star Sirius and its invisible companion, Sirius B. Information modern astronomy only confirmed in the 20th century. How did they know? The myths say they were taught by beings from the sky. One might dismiss these stories as coincidence, but the parallels across cultures are too striking. Time and again, we find tales of sky beings, flying craft, devastating weapons, and sacred objects of immense power. Each myth dresses the memory in its own cultural garb, but the essence remains. Humanity once encountered technologies so advanced they seemed divine. Mainstream historians argue these are allegories, metaphors for natural forces or psychological archetypes. But what if the opposite is true? What if myths are humanity's fractured attempt to describe real events? Wars fought with lost weapons, machines that roared across the heavens, energies harnessed and then forgotten. The ancients lacked the technical vocabulary we have today. To them, a laser was a fire of the gods. A flying craft was a chariot of the heavens. Their language was symbolic, but the memory was real. The danger of such myths, however, is their fragility. Over centuries, memories become distorted. Advanced machines become magic, technologies become miracles, and those who wielded them become gods. As suppression and time erased the actual science, all that remained were stories, fragments, symbols, and half-remembered truths. Yet, even fragments can be dangerous. Consider the Mahabharata, which speaks of a weapon so terrible it unleashed fire brighter than 1,000 suns, leaving hair and nails falling out, contaminating the land. To a modern reader, the description is chillingly similar to radiation after a nuclear blast. Could this be a poetic record of a cataclysm involving lost technology, a war of the ancients that ended in devastation? If so, then myths are not just memories of glory, but warnings of destruction. And perhaps this is why myths were allowed to survive when texts and technologies were destroyed. Stories are safer. They are easier to dismiss, easier to recast as moral fables. Yet for those who know how to read between the lines, myths may still conceal the blueprint of forbidden sciences. Even today, echoes of this survive in art, literature, and secret traditions. Occult societies often revere mythic symbols, the winged chariot, the thunderbolt, the sacred chest, as veils for deeper truths. The question is, are they mere symbols, or are they keys, encoded instructions waiting to be unlocked? The idea that myths encode memories of lost technology changes everything. It suggests that the ancients were not dreamers spinning tales in the dark, but survivors attempting to preserve fragments of a forgotten science. That our fairy tales are not fantasies, but faint recollections of a reality once lived. And if myths are memory, then they're also prophecy. For to remember what was is to hint at what could be again. The Vimanas may fly once more. The fire of the gods may return to human hands. The ark, the hammer, the tablets, all may reappear, either through rediscovery or through the deliberate unveiling of secrets long kept from the world. Which brings us to a chilling thought. If the keepers of hidden knowledge, as we saw in Section 9, have preserved fragments of this ancient science, then perhaps myths are not only memory for us, but instruction for them. A roadmap they alone can decipher, guiding them toward technologies the masses are told never existed. The ancients whispered their memories in myth. We dismiss them as fantasy. But what if they were telling us the truth all along? If the lost technologies of the ancients were truly erased, if their temples were toppled and their libraries burned, then how is it that fragments of their wisdom still seem to haunt our world? The answer may be simple, yet unsettling. The knowledge was never fully destroyed. Instead, it was hidden in plain sight, encoded in symbols, architecture, and designs that surround us to this very day. Walk through the heart of any great city, and you will find them. Obelisks rising toward the sky, domes echoing the heavens, geometric street plans that mirror constellations. Washington, D.C., Paris, London, Rome, all are filled with architectural echoes of the ancient world. These are not coincidences. They are deliberate choices made by architects and planners who understood, or at least intuited, that the sacred geometries of the ancients carried power. Take the obelisk, a monument that traces its origins back to ancient Egypt. Originally, obelisks were aligned to the sun, acting as solar markers. They were believed to channel divine energy, linking the earth to the heavens. Today, obelisks stand in the Vatican, in the center of Paris at the Place de la Concorde, and in Washington, D.C., at the National Mall. They are not inert monuments. They are symbols, reminders, perhaps even instruments of a lost science of resonance and alignment. Why else would nearly every seat of power in the modern world insist on raising them? Then there are the domes, architectural echoes of the heavens themselves. The Pantheon in Rome, St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, the Capitol Dome in Washington, all are designed as microcosms of the cosmos, with proportions tied to sacred ratios. Domes amplify sound, focus energy, and create resonance. Were these designs merely aesthetic? Or are they subtle survivals of the ancient science that understood buildings could act as vibrational chambers, tools of energy rather than simple shelters of stone? Even the layouts of cities reveal hidden codes. Washington, D.C. has long been noted for its geometric street plan, filled with pentagrams, squares, and alignments pointing to celestial events. Paris's grand avenues radiate like the spokes of a wheel, a design echoing solar geometry. London's city plan overlays with Masonic symbolism. Across the world, power centers are infused with symbols derived from sacred geometry, not for the benefit of the public, but for those who know how to read the language. And then there are the symbols themselves. The all-seeing eye, the pyramid, the compass, and square. These ancient emblems, once carved into temple walls, are now stamped onto currencies, government seals, and corporate logos. They tell a story hidden in plain sight, that the same codes which guided the ancients still guide the structures of power today. The average person sees only decoration. The initiate sees a message, a claim of guardianship over ancient wisdom. Consider also the persistence of astronomical alignments in modern monuments. The United Nations building in New York is oriented with precise geometry. The Vatican's obelisk marks solar events. Even Stonehenge has modern descendants, observatories, stadiums, and monuments that mimic its celestial functions. If such alignments were mere superstition, why do modern institutions still replicate them? Perhaps because they are not superstition at all, but a science of energy and alignment we no longer consciously recognize. The survival of these clues is not limited to architecture. Art itself preserves fragments of ancient knowledge. Renaissance paintings hide sacred geometries within their compositions. Cathedrals are filled with stained glass mandalas that reflect the patterns of sacred ratios. Even modern corporate logos echo ancient sigils and symbols of power, often with uncanny precision. Could it be that these designs are more than aesthetics, that they are resonant patterns which subtly shape perception, influence thought, and channel energy in ways we do not fully understand? Some would argue this is coincidence, the human tendency to see patterns where none exist. But history tells us otherwise. The builders of cathedrals studied geometry obsessively, believing that certain ratios could bring a structure into harmony with divine order. The Freemasons, Rosicrucians, and other secret societies embedded these ratios into architecture as a way of preserving ancient wisdom. They believed buildings could act as instruments, shaping not only space but consciousness. Is it so far-fetched to believe that the same principles are at work in our cities today, hidden in plain sight? But why hide it all? If this knowledge has survived, why cloak it in symbols and architecture instead of sharing it openly? The answer may lie in control. To preserve fragments of ancient knowledge while denying it to the masses allows elites to wield its power while keeping others in ignorance. The obelisks, domes, and geometries serve as quiet reminders, monuments not only to forgotten science, but to the ongoing control of that science. There is also another possibility, that the knowledge itself must remain hidden, waiting for the right time. Ancient traditions often spoke of cycles, golden ages when humanity was ready for higher wisdom, and dark ages when that wisdom had to be concealed. Perhaps the architects of the modern world, consciously or unconsciously, are part of this tradition. By encoding the clues in stone and symbol, they ensured that the knowledge would never be fully lost, but it would only be unlocked by those who learn to see. In this light, the world becomes a kind of living puzzle. The obelisks are keys. The domes are amplifiers. The city grids are maps. The symbols are codes. Together, they form a hidden language that has been staring at us all along. And if that is true, then our world is not as modern as we think. It is ancient, a palimpsest built atop forgotten science, encoded by those who still remember and waiting for those with eyes to see. The ancients carved their codes into stone temples. The medieval builders embedded them into cathedrals. The modern world hides them in monuments, city plans, and logos. The medium changes, but the message is the same. The lost technology of the ancients was never entirely lost. It was hidden in plain sight. The question is no longer whether the knowledge has survived. The question is, who today knows how to use it? And what would happen if that knowledge were revealed not just to the few, but to all? What if the lost civilizations of the past did not merely build temples, pyramids, and megaliths at random? What if every monument, every sacred site, every mysterious ruin was part of something far greater, a vast planetary system of power? To entertain this possibility is to glimpse the Earth not as a ball of rock and water, but as a living machine, an organism threaded with invisible currents of energy mapped and harnessed by those who came before us. Modern science already acknowledges that the Earth is dynamic and alive. Magnetic fields swirl around it. Lay currents of telluric energy ripple beneath its crust. Lightning discharges transfer trillions of watts of power every day. Our ancestors may not have described this in the language of physics, but they understood it in ways we no longer do. They spoke of dragon lines, song lines, and serpent paths, ancient names for what we now call ley lines. Ley lines are said to be invisible alignments that connect sacred sites across vast distances. At first glance, this may seem like coincidence, but when you trace them on a map, something startling appears. Stonehenge aligns with Avebury and Glastonbury Tor in England. The Great Pyramid aligns with Heliopolis and Baalbek. Teotihuacan in Mexico connects with Chichen Itza, Tikal, and Machu Picchu. When extended globally, these lines form a lattice that spans continents, oceans, and poles, as if the Earth itself were wrapped in a geometric web. The pattern becomes even stranger when viewed through the lens of geometry. Researchers have noted that many of the world's greatest monuments are positioned along what's called the Earth Energy Grid, a geometric network resembling the icosahedron and dodecahedron, two platonic solids that the ancients revered as keys to cosmic harmony. Could it be that the ancients were mapping this grid not for decoration, but for function, tapping into it the way a modern engineer taps into an electrical circuit? Let us return to the Great Pyramid of Giza. Its location is no accident. It sits almost exactly at the geographic center of Earth's landmass, aligned with true north to a precision that even modern compasses fail to match. Extend lines outward from it, and they intersect with dozens of ancient sites. It is as though the pyramid is not an isolated wonder, but a hub, a node in a planetary system of power. The same is true in South America. Machu Picchu, Sacsayhuaman, and Tiwanaku all fall along geometric alignments that stretch across the Andes. Easter Island's Moai statues, gazing out into the Pacific, also lie along these global lines, connecting with Nazca and beyond. Why did civilizations separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years all build along these invisible pathways? Were they guided by coincidence or by knowledge we have lost? The Polynesians spoke of mana, a life force that flowed through land and sea. The Chinese mapped dragon lines, which later became feng shui, the art of aligning buildings with Earth's natural currents. The Australian Aboriginals sang the song lines, sacred tracks across the land tide to creation myths. Across cultures, across continents, the story is the same. There are invisible forces that flow through the earth, and to live in harmony with them is to harness power. What if these stories are not myth but memory? The placement of ancient sites suggests a deliberate attempt to anchor and amplify this grid. Megalithic stones may have acted as conductors, channeling Earth's natural energies. Pyramids, with their geometric precision, may have focused and transmitted those forces. Even simple stone circles could have been nodal points, tuning forks placed upon the land to resonate with its hidden currents. And if the Earth truly is a machine, then its grid is more than natural. It may be interactive. The ancients may have used it as a global system of communication, navigation, or even power transmission. Some researchers have proposed that the grid could carry resonant energy across vast distances, much like Nikola Tesla dreamed of with his wireless energy towers. Could it be that Tesla's vision was not original, but a rediscovery of what the ancients already knew? Look closely at modern infrastructure, and echoes of this grid remain. Major cities rise at nodal points of energy. Trade routes mirror ancient alignments. Satellites now map gravitational anomalies that coincide with many of these sites, as if the ancients had already charted what we are only rediscovering. The grid has never disappeared. It is as much a part of Earth as mountains and rivers. The difference is that we have forgotten how to use it. But there are whispers that not everyone has forgotten. Secret societies, esoteric orders, and hidden schools of knowledge may still guard fragments of this ancient science. Why else would so many modern centers of power, the Vatican, Washington, D.C., London, be built upon older sacred sites, aligned with astronomical and geometric precision? Perhaps they, too, are tapping into the grid, channeling forces that the rest of us no longer recognize. If this is true, the implications are staggering. The Earth is not merely a stage upon which history unfolds. It is part of the story, part of the system. The ancients were not simply builders of stone. They were engineers of the planet itself. They wove their monuments into the fabric of the Earth, creating a network of energy that spanned the globe. And when their civilizations fell, the grid remained, waiting for those with the knowledge to access it. Perhaps that is why myths of lost civilizations persist. Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, all are said to have been great cultures that mastered the forces of earth and sky. If they truly existed, their monuments may not be beneath the waves, but right before our eyes, standing as nodes. In a planetary network, their power has not vanished. It hums beneath our feet, hidden in the stones, encoded in the land, waiting to be remembered. So the question is not whether the Earth has an energy grid. The question is whether we are willing to see it. For once we do, we may realize that the ruins of the ancients are not relics at all. They are not dead stones. They are living instruments, part of a machine that spans the world, a machine that may still be switched on. And if that is true, then the ancients were not only masters of their world. They were architects of ours. If the ancients truly harnessed a technology beyond what mainstream history allows, then the natural question arises, what became of that knowledge? Was it all swept away by flood and fire, buried beneath sand and sea? Or did some fragments survive, carefully guarded through the ages by those who recognized their power? Throughout history, whispers persist of secret brotherhoods, mystical orders, and priestly castes who claimed to hold keys to ancient wisdom. These were not merely groups of philosophers or religious ascetics. They positioned themselves as custodians of a legacy stretching back into prehistory, guardians of forbidden knowledge. Consider the Egyptian priesthoods, whose temples were more than places of worship. They were repositories of science, astronomy, medicine, and geometry. Foreign visitors such as Solon, Pythagoras, and even Plato are said to have been initiated into their mysteries. The priests did not openly share their deepest teachings. Instead, knowledge was encoded in hieroglyphs, rituals, and oral traditions accessible only to initiates. Could it be that some of this knowledge was not Egyptian in origin at all, but inherited from an older, forgotten world? The same pattern emerges across continents. In Mesopotamia, the Magi and scribes were keepers of esoteric astronomy and mathematics. In India, the Brahmin custodians of the Vedas spoke of Vimanas, flying machines powered by unknown forces. In the Americas, Mayan and Aztec priesthoods used calendars and star charts of astonishing accuracy, knowledge they claimed was handed down by the gods. Everywhere, the motif repeats, priestly castes claiming descent from an ancient source, knowledge preserved in fragments, hidden from the masses. But perhaps the most enduring inheritors of this legacy were the mystery schools of the classical world. The Eleusinian mysteries of Greece, the Orphic initiations, the Pythagorean brotherhood, all hinted at deeper truths concealed from the uninitiated. The teachings were so secret that even today, scholars can only speculate about their content. What could have been so dangerous that it had to be hidden behind oaths of silence, punishable by death if betrayed? Later, during the rise of Christianity, fragments of this forbidden knowledge were absorbed, transformed, and sometimes demonized. The Gnostics, for instance, spoke of a hidden wisdom older than the Church, one that revealed humanity's true potential as divine beings trapped in a material illusion. Their writings were suppressed, their communities destroyed, yet their ideas survived underground, resurfacing in the Hermetic traditions of late antiquity and the Islamic Golden Age. It is within the labyrinth of the Middle Ages that we find the most tantalizing clues. Orders such as the Knights Templar rose from obscurity to immense power, fueled by secrets they were said to have uncovered in the ruins of Jerusalem. Rumors abound that they found hidden scrolls, relics, or perhaps even technologies buried beneath Solomon's temple. Whatever the truth, their sudden rise and brutal suppression suggest they held something that threatened the established powers. When they were disbanded, their knowledge did not vanish. Some believe it flowed into other secret currents. The Rosicrucians, Freemasons, and Illuminati, societies that openly used symbols echoing the ancient mysteries. Why the secrecy? If such knowledge exists, why keep it hidden? One answer lies in power. Knowledge of how to harness the forces of the earth, of how to extend life, of how to manipulate energy and matter. Such knowledge could destabilize kingdoms, religions, and economies. To reveal it openly might invite chaos. Better, perhaps, for it to remain within the grasp of a select few. There is also the issue of responsibility. Many traditions claim that misuse of this knowledge led to past cataclysms, that civilizations such as Atlantis were destroyed not by natural disaster alone, but by their own hubris, by their reckless manipulation of forces they could not control. If true, then secrecy was not only a matter of power, but of survival. Better to keep humanity ignorant than to risk another self-inflicted apocalypse. And yet, traces of this hidden science seep into the open. The architecture of Gothic cathedrals encodes sacred geometry. Renaissance thinkers like John Dee and Giordano Bruno pursued angelic languages and cosmic harmonics. Alchemists spoke in riddles of transmutation, but their diagrams suggest an understanding of energy and matter far beyond superstition. Even modern inventors, such as Nikola Tesla, appear almost as reawakened initiates, tapping into currents of power that echo ancient principles, only to be silenced, ridiculed, or destroyed by forces that prefer such knowledge remain hidden. Could it be that the same guardians still operate today? Some argue that the world's most powerful institutions, financial, religious, political, are merely outward shells for deeper networks of control, lineages that stretch back into the mists of time. These lineages may not call themselves Atlantean or Lemurian, but they preserve what remains of those civilizations' knowledge, using it not for the liberation of humanity, but for the consolidation of power. Symbols, too, may be their fingerprints. The pyramid and the all-seeing eye, the compass and square, the double-headed eagle. To the uninitiated, they are harmless emblems. To the initiated, they may be reminders of truths too vast to express openly. It is no coincidence that these symbols appear in the architecture of capitals, the crests of nations, and even the seals of corporations. They are signs that the guardians of forbidden knowledge have not disappeared. They have simply gone underground, hiding in plain sight. The unsettling possibility is this. While mainstream history insists that humanity has advanced in a straight line from primitive caves to modern skyscrapers, the Guardians know otherwise. They know that our story is cyclical, that civilizations rise and fall, that knowledge is gained and lost. And perhaps they believe that another fall is coming. In such a case, secrecy is not merely a strategy. It is a preparation, a way to ensure that when the collapse comes, the fragments of ancient science will survive once more to be inherited by the chosen few. For the rest of us, the trail is faint but not invisible. Hidden in myth, in symbol, in geometry, in whispered traditions, the breadcrumbs are there. But to follow them is to risk confrontation with powers that do not want the truth revealed. For if humanity at large were to rediscover the lost technologies of the ancients, the monopoly of the Guardians would be broken. And perhaps that is the greatest secret of all. Even as humanity reached the industrial and technological ages, the suppression of knowledge did not end. It evolved. The ancient custodians may have vanished, but their methods persisted, adapted to a modern world dominated by governments, corporations, and scientific institutions. What was once encoded in stone, ritual, or symbol is now hidden in archives, patents, and classified programs, all safeguarded under the guise of national security or proprietary technology. Take, for example, energy. Nikola Tesla, a visionary far ahead of his time, dreamed of wireless energy transmission, a system capable of delivering free, limitless power to the entire planet. Today, Tesla's inventions are legendary, yet many of his patents and prototypes vanished under mysterious circumstances. Some claim they were seized by government agencies, effectively locking away technologies that could have liberated humanity from the constraints of centralized energy. The question remains, why would such knowledge be suppressed if it promised global benefit? The pattern repeats across countless fields. In medicine, whistleblowers have claimed that cures for diseases, advanced therapies, and technologies capable of regenerative healing are buried or ignored because they threaten the profitability of existing systems. In physics, alternative energy systems, anti-gravity experiments, and zero-point energy devices are routinely classified or quietly purchased by powerful organizations. In each case, the explanation given is safety, feasibility, or national interest. Yet history suggests a more unsettling possibility. The suppression is systematic, deliberate, and designed to maintain control. Even archaeology and history are not immune. Excavations of ancient sites often produce anomalies, artifacts that challenge the accepted timeline of human civilization, or megalithic structures that defy conventional engineering explanations. When such discoveries emerge, they are frequently downplayed, misinterpreted, or simply disappear from the public record. Certain ancient manuscripts remain locked in private collections or institutional archives, shielded from scrutiny. Every suppression, every missing artifact, every ignored anomaly forms part of a continuum stretching from antiquity to the present day. Government secrecy plays a central role in this pattern. Military programs around the world have long experimented with advanced propulsion, energy weapons, and technologies that, if widely understood, could revolutionize society. Projects like HARP, rumored anti-gravity tests, and classified aerospace initiatives spark speculation not because the science is impossible, but because the information is withheld. Modern elites have access to technologies far beyond public awareness, a form of knowledge control unparalleled in human history. Scientific institutions, too, can function as instruments of suppression. Research that challenges orthodox timelines, questions the evolution of civilization, or proposes alternative energy theories often struggles to receive funding, publication, or recognition. Scholars pursuing unconventional hypotheses may face ridicule, career obstacles, or outright censorship. The mainstream narrative, carefully maintained, dictates not only what is taught, but what is conceivable for the majority of humanity. Those who dare to step outside these boundaries risk isolation. Even popular culture is carefully curated. Films, documentaries, and books hint at suppressed knowledge and lost technologies, but they often frame them as fantasy, science fiction, or conspiracy theory. While this entertains, it also disarms. Truths that might awaken curiosity are presented as fiction, training the public to dismiss the very ideas that could challenge the status quo. Knowledge is thus filtered not only through secrecy, but through narrative control, a subtle but powerful method of suppression. Why is this suppression so effective? Because knowledge is not simply information, it is power. Energy systems, technologies of flight, devices harnessing natural forces, in the wrong hands, these could dismantle existing hierarchies. By controlling access, elites maintain dominance, ensuring that humanity progresses only within prescribed limits. To the public, the world appears modern and free, but in reality, much of the potential unlocked by the ancients has been carefully withheld. Consider, too, the role of education. From childhood, we are taught history as a linear progression. Primitive humans evolve into complex civilizations, slowly mastering technology through incremental discovery. What we are rarely taught is the possibility that ancient civilizations already possessed advanced knowledge, and that much of it was intentionally hidden, lost, or destroyed. By framing history in this linear way, institutions condition us to accept limitations, obscuring the potential that lies dormant in the remnants of the past. This suppression is not merely passive. It can be active, aggressive, and even violent. Investigators, inventors, and whistleblowers have faced harassment, disappearance, or discreditation. Consider reports from engineers claiming breakthroughs in free energy systems, only to have laboratories mysteriously burned, funding withdrawn, or research confiscated. While skeptics may attribute these events to misfortune, the frequency and pattern suggest more than coincidence. The guardians of forbidden knowledge, modern descendants of ancient custodians, still operate, ensuring that certain technologies remain beyond reach. Yet, paradoxically, evidence of these suppressed technologies continues to surface. Independent researchers, whistleblowers, and enthusiasts occasionally reveal fragments, obscure patents, leaked documents, anomalous artifacts, and eyewitness accounts. Each piece acts as a breadcrumb, hinting at a larger truth, but always incomplete, enough to tantalize, to spark curiosity, to invite speculation. The game of concealment and revelation continues, much as it did in antiquity, with fragments of ancient science surfacing only to be partially obscured once again. The broader implication is profound. Humanity may already possess the tools to transform civilization, to harness energy freely, to explore space more efficiently, to heal the body and environment. Yet these tools remain hidden. Our potential has been curtailed, not by natural limitations, but by deliberate human action. In this sense, the suppression of knowledge in the modern age is a continuation of the same ancient patterns: control, secrecy, and selective revelation. And still, hope persists. Digital archives, independent researchers, and grassroots movements are gradually chipping away at the walls of secrecy. Leaks, whistleblowers, and technological rediscoveries suggest that the chain of suppression may be weakening. What was once carefully concealed may soon be revealed, for better or worse. Humanity stands at a threshold, a moment where the past, the suppressed knowledge of the ancients, and the ingenuity of modern thinkers could converge, unleashing a transformation that has been denied for millennia. Ultimately, the story is clear. The lost technologies of the ancients were never truly gone. They were hidden, suppressed, and controlled, first by priesthoods, secret societies, and elites, and now by governments, corporations, and scientific authorities. But the traces remain, waiting for those with vision, courage, and insight to piece them together. The past is not finished with us, and the guardians of knowledge are not omnipotent. The possibility of rediscovery remains, and with it, the potential for a new era of understanding. While much of the world remains unaware, a growing number of researchers, explorers, and seekers have dedicated their lives to uncovering the hidden technologies of the ancients. Their quest is not merely academic. It is a pursuit that bridges history, archaeology, science, and esoteric knowledge, seeking to unravel a puzzle deliberately obscured for centuries. Some of the most compelling discoveries occur in remote and extreme locations: deserts, mountains, and jungles where ruins and artifacts lie hidden beneath layers of sand, stone, and time. Archaeologists in Peru and Bolivia have uncovered massive stone blocks in sites like Sacsayhuaman and Tiwanaku, stones weighing hundreds of tons, fitted together with such precision that even modern machinery struggles to replicate it. Traditional explanations attribute these feats to sheer manpower and ingenuity, but independent researchers suspect that the ancients may have had access to technologies that leveraged resonance, vibration, or anti-gravity principles. Underwater expeditions also continue to yield startling results. Off the coasts of Japan, Cuba, and India, divers have discovered submerged stone structures, aligned with astronomical markers and displaying craftsmanship that challenges conventional timelines. Could these be remnants of lost civilizations, societies that mastered technologies now beyond our comprehension and were swept away by floods or geological upheavals? Each new finding hints that the story of human advancement is far more complex than mainstream narratives allow. Even in the realm of ancient texts, seekers uncover hidden knowledge. Rare manuscripts, long ignored in archives, have revealed diagrams and formulas suggestive of advanced engineering, astronomical calculations, and energy manipulation. The Vaimanika Shastra from India, for example, contains detailed instructions on constructing flying machines using metals, energy channels, and propulsion methods. Whether literal or symbolic, these texts provide tantalizing hints of lost science that modern research is only beginning to explore. The modern quest is not without danger. Whistleblowers who claim to have rediscovered suppressed technologies, from free energy devices to advanced propulsion prototypes, often face intense scrutiny, harassment, and legal obstacles. Laboratories are raided, patents mysteriously disappear, and careers are derailed. The stakes are high because the knowledge they pursue is not theoretical. It has the potential to disrupt entire industries and shift the balance of power. Private research initiatives have also emerged, attempting to decode ancient technologies through experimentation. Engineers, physicists, and enthusiasts attempt to reconstruct devices described in ancient texts or hinted at by megalithic structures. Some explore resonance frequencies, others experiment with geometric alignment, energy amplification, and material composition. The goal is audacious: to prove that ancient science was not myth, and to reclaim capabilities lost over millennia. Expeditions often rely on technology that the ancients could not have imagined: ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, LiDAR mapping of dense jungles, and drones scanning remote terrains. Yet despite these advantages, the challenges remain immense. Many ruins are deliberately hidden or inaccessible. Artifacts are buried under centuries of sediment, and institutions, from local governments to international authorities, often impose restrictions that limit access, whether due to bureaucracy, politics, or deliberate suppression. The quest is also global in scope. From the pyramids of Egypt to the stone circles of Britain, from the megaliths of South America to the underwater ruins off the coasts of Asia, seekers trace patterns and alignments that may reveal a deeper knowledge encoded into the landscape itself. These expeditions reveal that ancient civilizations, though separated by thousands of miles and millennia, share surprising parallels: advanced astronomy, precise geometry, and monumental construction that suggests a universal science, lost but not entirely forgotten. Then there are the modern whistleblowers, whose revelations bring this ancient knowledge into contemporary debate. Engineers and inventors have claimed breakthroughs in free energy, anti-gravity, and propulsion systems, often citing inspiration from ancient texts or megalithic alignments. While the mainstream dismisses these claims as fringe or pseudoscience, the consistency of patterns across cultures and time periods invites curiosity. Could it be that humanity is on the cusp of rediscovering principles known to our ancestors, but lost to conventional history? The modern quest is not limited to the physical world. Digital platforms and global collaboration allow researchers to pool data, share findings, and decode texts in ways impossible a century ago. Satellite mapping uncovers hidden structures, 3D modeling reconstructs collapsed temples, and open-source research enables individuals to contribute to discoveries once reserved for elite institutions. The democratization of knowledge creates both opportunity and tension, challenging the control mechanisms that have historically restricted access to ancient wisdom. Perhaps most compelling of all are the stories of those who experience inexplicable phenomena in the field, unusual energies near certain ruins, anomalies in magnetic fields, and instruments behaving unpredictably. Some researchers claim that certain alignments amplify electromagnetic fields or resonate with harmonic frequencies, hinting at technologies deliberately embedded into ancient monuments. Whether these claims are accurate or perceived, they underscore a tantalizing possibility. The ancients left us more than stone and story. They left an interactive, energetic legacy. The modern quest is therefore both scientific and spiritual. It is a pursuit of truth hidden in layers of time, myth, and secrecy. Researchers must navigate a labyrinth of material evidence, textual fragments, and modern obfuscation. The reward, however, is profound, a glimpse into technologies that could reshape humanity's understanding of energy, matter, and the very history of civilization. Ultimately, this quest is a race against time. Every year, erosion, urban development, and climate change threaten to erase the remnants of ancient knowledge forever. Artifacts are lost, texts decay, and sites are destroyed. The urgency drives the modern seeker to record, decode, and perhaps even reclaim the lost technologies before the last traces vanish. And yet, despite all obstacles, institutional resistance, suppression, and the sheer difficulty of the endeavor, the modern quest continues. Across continents, in deserts, jungles, mountains, and underwater ruins, dedicated seekers pursue what the ancients left behind. Each discovery, each clue, and each anomaly brings humanity closer to understanding that the story of lost technology is not merely legend. It is a tangible, traceable reality waiting to be fully unveiled. For the first time in millennia, the pieces may be coming together. The lost knowledge of the ancients, suppressed for thousands of years, may once again find its way into human hands, not as myth, not as legend, but as living, actionable science. The question that remains is not whether it exists, but whether humanity is ready to wield it wisely. After centuries of suppression, secrecy, and near-forgotten lore, the possibility of rediscovering the lost technologies of the ancients now feels closer than ever. The journey has taken us across deserts, oceans, and jungles, through myths, manuscripts, and monuments, and into the hidden networks of power that have sought to control knowledge. The pieces of this vast puzzle are finally converging, revealing a future that may be far stranger and more extraordinary than we ever imagined. Imagine a world where the principles encoded in the stones of Giza, the pyramids of Teotihuacan, and the temples of South America are finally understood. Energy, once monopolized and scarce, could flow freely. Devices that manipulate gravity or channel planetary energy could revolutionize transportation, architecture, and industry. Healing technologies hinted at in ancient texts might transform medicine. The very rules of what is possible could shift as humanity reconnects with wisdom long hidden beneath myth and symbol. Yet with revelation comes responsibility. Knowledge that can reshape civilization carries immense power and, inevitably, the potential for misuse. The history of the ancients serves as both inspiration and warning. Civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria, if they truly existed, are said to have reached technological heights that rival our own imagination, only to collapse under the weight of hubris. Their stories remind us that discovery alone is not enough. Understanding and ethical application are essential. Modern seekers stand at crossroads. The rediscovery of ancient technology is no longer a speculative pursuit. It is an unfolding reality. Researchers decoding texts, engineers reconstructing machines, and explorers revealing megalithic alignments are all contributing to a body of knowledge that has remained dormant for millennia. The implications extend beyond science. They challenge our history, philosophy, and even spirituality. What does it mean to be human if the limits of our ancestors were far greater than history suggests? The revelation also forces a re-examination of power structures. If advanced knowledge was hidden for control, then its emergence could democratize power in ways previously unimaginable. Centralized energy monopolies could dissolve. Knowledge of planetary energies could empower communities to harness natural forces locally. Global travel, communication, and even space exploration could accelerate. But the transition would be tumultuous. Those who have benefited from centuries of secrecy may resist, and society at large may struggle to adapt to the sudden expansion of what is possible. History, as we know it, may require rewriting. The textbooks that narrate a linear progression from primitive to modern civilization will be challenged by evidence of advanced societies existing far earlier than previously believed. Myths, once dismissed as fanciful stories, may be recognized as encoded memories of real technologies and events. Religions, philosophy, and science may all undergo profound reinterpretation as the lines between legend and reality blur. The human imagination, however, is perhaps the greatest frontier in this revelation. Ancient myths, once symbols of wonder, may serve as blueprints for innovation. Vimanas, Mjolnir, the Ark of the Covenant, and other legendary devices could inspire practical experimentation. The study of resonance, sacred geometry, and planetary alignment could redefine engineering, architecture, and energy systems. Art, literature, and music may rediscover ancient principles that harmonize with nature and consciousness in ways forgotten for millennia. And yet, this future is not inevitable. The knowledge, while powerful, is incomplete. Many fragments remain hidden, misinterpreted, or inaccessible. Modern seekers must not only reconstruct devices and principles, but also interpret their purpose within ethical and environmental frameworks. The ancients may have understood forces we can barely conceptualize, but we are tasked with integrating them wisely. The margin for error is slim. Misuse could mirror the cataclysms of lost civilizations. The revelation also opens a profound spiritual dimension. If ancient technologies were indeed intertwined with consciousness, resonance, and planetary energy, then rediscovery could reconnect humanity with forces that are simultaneously scientific and sacred. We may find that the boundary between material and spiritual, technology and magic, is far thinner than modern thought allows. Understanding energy, frequency, and geometry could not only transform civilization, but consciousness itself. The modern quest, therefore, is more than archaeology or science. It is a philosophical and ethical journey. The rediscovery of lost technologies asks not only what we can do, but what we should do. It challenges assumptions about human limitation, the authority of historical narratives, and the distribution of power. And it compels us to ask a question the ancients may have left encoded in stone, text, and symbol. Are we ready to wield knowledge that was once forbidden? As we contemplate the future, the line between myth and reality begins to blur. The Vimanas may soar again, not as legends, but as prototypes of engineering rediscovered. Energy from the earth itself may be harnessed, powering civilizations sustainably and abundantly. The Ark, the hammer, and other legendary artifacts may be understood as instruments of natural forces, once feared, now studied and respected. Humanity may rediscover capacities for creation, invention, and understanding that were lost for thousands of years. And yet, the journey is ongoing. Every discovery opens new questions. Every clue leads to another layer of the puzzle. The guardians of knowledge, ancient and modern, may continue to challenge seekers. Suppression may continue in subtle ways. But the momentum has shifted. Humanity is awakening to the possibility that our ancestors were not primitive, but profound, that lost technologies were not fiction, but reality, and that the potential to reclaim them lies not only in rediscovery, but in imagination, ethics, and courage. Ultimately, the revelation is both promise and warning. It is a call to explore, to study, and to remember, to recognize that the world we inhabit is far older, far stranger, and far more technologically sophisticated than conventional history suggests. And to understand that the future of civilization may depend on our ability to integrate what was once lost, wielding the knowledge of the ancients wisely, responsibly, and ethically. As the sun sets over the pyramids, the megaliths, and the hidden ruins scattered across the globe, one truth becomes clear. The past is not gone. It is waiting, encoded in stone, preserved in myth, hidden in symbols, and carried by those brave enough to seek it. And for the first time in millennia, humanity may finally be ready to listen, to understand, and to reclaim the lost technologies of the ancients. The story of civilization is not finished. It is only beginning anew.